Hey family, this is King Kurus, the Black History Buff. Come, let's walk and talk. Quick heads up, somewhere in today's video, I'm gonna drop a special word. The first person to comment with that word wins a shout out in the next video. So keep those ears open whilst we dive into the story. Okay, so let's get on with the show. While everyone's been watching these mass deportation headlines, there's a story that's been flying completely underneath the radar. Trump hasn't just been going after immigrants in general, he's specifically been targeting black immigrants. And I really do mean specifically. We're talking about a quiet war that's been designed to hit our people the hardest, while most of the media isn't saying a damn word about it. Every day I go through the news to bring you stories that matter to our community. And today's story is about how black migrants from Haiti, from Africa, from the Caribbean are being hunted down and deported at rates that will make your head spin. And family, when I tell you the numbers, you're going to see exactly why this story feels like history repeating itself all over again. So here's what's happening right now. Trump just rolled out a new travel ban that sounds really familiar if you remember his first term. This thing targets a dozen countries, and guess what? Most of them are in Africa and the Caribbean. We are talking about Haiti, Somalia, Sudan, Chad, the Republic of Congo, Eritrea, Libya, and Yemen. Then you've got partial restrictions on Burundi, Sierra Leone, Togo, and Cuba. Look at that list, family. You can see the pattern, right? But here's where it starts to get really nasty. The Supreme Court just ruled in May that Trump can revoke the temporary legal status of hundreds of thousands of Haitians, Venezuelans, Cubans, and Nicaraguans who came here legally under Biden's humanitarian parole program. Just think about that for a second. These people followed all the rules. They had sponsors. They were working, paying taxes, contributing to communities, and now Trump's declaring that their legal status was actually illegal all along. It's like changing the rules of the game after you've already been playing for years. Now let me break down some numbers for you. And I promise you're gonna get mad, but stick with me because this is where the whole picture really starts to come together. You know how a certain group of people always say that the system treats everyone equally? Yeah, right. Here's what's really happening. According to analysis by the Black Alliance for Just Immigration, and this is from 2022 data covering Obama, Trump, and Biden administrations, black undocumented migrants make up only 5.4% of undocumented people in America. We're talking about a tiny slice of the American pie here. But somehow, and this is where it gets nuts, we make up 20.3% of the people getting deported for criminal activities. Are you following me with this? 5% of the group, but 20% of the deportations. That's like saying your neighborhood has 5% of the city's population, but somehow 20% of all police raids happen on your block. You have to start asking questions, right? This isn't just about Trump's policies, family. This is a pattern that's been going on for years across different administrations. This is systemic. But wait, it gets worse, way worse. Once black immigrants end up in ICE detention, and remember, this is supposed to be about immigration, not punishment, we're twice as likely to get beaten, abused, or thrown in solitary confinement than any other group. And here's the worst part. 28% of all the abuse complaints come from black migrants. 28%. But we're only 6% of the people in detention. I need you to understand something. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are real people. Fathers, mothers getting snatched from their families. Students who came here to build a better life getting their visas pulled for speaking up about injustice. Let me tell you something that's happened that perfectly shows this pattern. Back in 2020, Trump's first administration mass deported dozens of Cameroonian asylum seekers. These were black African migrants who were fleeing civil war and violence. You know what happened when they got sent back? They got tortured, sexually abused, beaten, thrown in prison. Some of their families got targeted too, just for being related to them. It got so bad that 27 of them eventually got humanitarian parole to come back to the US because the government finally admitted, yeah, we sent these people back to get tortured. But here's what really gets me. This past April 2025, Trump announced he was terminating the protected status for about 5,500 Cameroonians. The termination goes into effect in August. So people who've been here legally, working, paying taxes, building lives, are now being told it's time to go back to the same country where we know you were getting tortured. And by the way, speaking of torture, that's this week's keyword. Drop tortured in the comments below, because we need to be talking and shouting about these type of situations more. The first one to do so gets a shout out in next week's video. And what the hell, because this is the first time I'm trying this, I might shout out everybody who puts that word in next week's video as well. But do you want to know what's happening at the exact same time that all this is going on? Trump has been rolling out the red carpet for white South African refugees, Afrikaners. In February, he signed an executive order creating a special program just for them, claiming that they're being persecuted. In May, the first group of 59 white South Africans landed at an American airport on a government-chartered flight. They got the VIP treatment. Federal officials greeted them. The process was expedited. Something that usually takes 18 to 24 months was done in a few weeks. They were literally fast-tracked whilst everyone else was turned away. Black Africans fleeing an actual civil war, get out, we don't want you. White South Africans complaining about land reform, come on in, here's your chartered flight. You see the pattern, you see what we're dealing with here. Now, this whole situation reminds me of something that's been happening for decades. History is made every day, but sometimes we're just watching the same playbook getting used over and over again. So let me take you back to the 1980s and 90s. Back then, we had two groups of people fleeing to America by boat, Cubans and Haitians, both Caribbean islands, both people trying to escape bad situations, both risking their lives on dangerous ocean crossings. I'm going to be real with you. Part of the Cuban situation was Cold War politics. America wanted to embarrass communist Cuba by welcoming its refugees. But here's the thing, family. When you dig into how this actually played out, race became the deciding factor. When white Cuban refugees made it to American shores, they got the wet foot, dry foot policy, which is basically that if you touched American soil, dry foot, you could stay. You got refugee status, work permits, a path to citizenship. But when Haitian refugees, black people, tried to do the same thing, the Coast Guard was instructed to intercept them at sea, wet foot, and send them right back. No asylum hearings, no due process, just straight back to Haiti, even though they were fleeing the exact same kind of political violence. And this isn't just my opinion. In 1992, the US Courts of Appeal specifically found that there was racial discrimination in how America treated Haitians versus Cubans. The court said it was as plain as day. This was about race. Between 1981 and 1991, the Coast Guard intercepted over 25,000 Haitians and sent them back. And do you know how many were allowed to pursue asylum claims in America? 28 out of 25,000. Same ocean, same desperate circumstances, same political persecution, but completely different treatment based solely on the color of their skin. And this is what makes it a quiet war. While everyone's focused on the big mass deportation headlines, the systemic targeting of black migrants is happening in the shadows. travel bans that mostly affect African countries, revoking protected status for Haitians, disproportionate detention and abuse, using places like Guantanamo Bay, and even deporting people to dangerous countries they have no connection to, like sending people to South Sudan, which is on the brink of civil war, or Libya, where migrants get tortured in militia-run detention factories. They're even creating new registration requirements for anyone 14 and older who isn't a US citizen. Think about that. If you register, you might get detained and deported. If you don't register, you face criminal prosecution. It's a catch-22 designed to terrorize communities. But here's what gives me some hope. Communities are fighting back. People are learning their rights. ICE officials are even complaining that immigrants seem to know their rights now, which is exactly why one of their directors got reassigned for not meeting the deportation quotas. Family, the simple reason why we're being targeted like this is just anti-black racism combined with the same scapegoating tactics we've seen throughout history. When there's economic stress, when there's political pressure, certain communities get targeted first. Ours. The difference today is that we have the internet. We have platforms like this one. We have ways to document what's happening and to share these stories. Look, I know this is heavy stuff, but we have to talk about it because these are our people. Whether they're from Haiti, from Somalia, from anywhere across the diaspora. When they come for one of our community, they're coming for all of us. The quiet war on black migrants isn't really quiet if we're paying attention. And once we see the pattern, once we understand the history, we can't unsee it. Okay, that's your morning walk and talk from me, King Kurus, the Black History Buff. If stories like this matter to you, if you want to support more content that connects today's news to black history and helps our community stay informed, check out the Black History Buff on Patreon. That's where you can help decide what we dive into next. Have a great week, have a great day, and please, stay blessed and stay safe.